Most people think that healing trauma means reliving it, digging it up, rehashing the past, but that's actually not true. You don't have to go back over the past and relive every detail of the trauma. You don't have to relive or dig up every bad relationship, every bad moment, the years that you lived in survival or trauma. You don't have to try to remember it all or go over every awful thing that happened to you. You don't have to try to remember it or even remember at all what happened to you. Because trauma isn't actually stored as a memory. Most of us think it's the memory of the experience of what happened in the past. But trauma isn't a memory, it's a pattern. Trauma is stored as survival patterns in the body. And the healing never happens back there. It doesn't happen back then when it happened. It happens right here, right now. Good morning. My name is Lisa with Lisa Heal Yourself. And today we're going to dive deep into trauma. I want to explain to you what it is, what it isn't, and how you can heal it right here in the present. So if you're excited about this video, please give it a like, hit the thumbs up so I know that you're interested in this content. Consider subscribing, and let's get into it. Okay, so trauma is not what happened. We think that trauma is what happened to us, but it's actually what your body and what your nervous system learned to do because of what happened. It's what your nervous system learned to do in response to what it is you were going through. Whatever your brain coded as safe or unsafe, your nervous system responded. And now when something unsafe shows up in your present, your nervous system responds with this stored pattern of what you learned to do when you initially, went through this experience or this trauma. So trauma shows up in the present every time you freeze, when you get startled or when you want to speak up, every time you say, I'm fine, but you're not actually fine. Every time you feel a sensation in your body that reminds you of the sensation that you felt back then. Every time you smell a smell that reminds you of the smell you smelled back then. Every time you see something, images of something that's happening now that relates to something that happened back then. And every time your body feels like it's in danger, even when you're safe. That's the survival pattern. And that's what we're healing. That's what we're healing. We're healing the survival pattern. We're not actually healing the trauma. We're not actually going back. We're actually sitting here right now and meeting the sensations and the emotions and the thoughts that are rising up in you now. When that anxiety bubbles up, when the heart rate starts to increase, when you start to experience the feelings of shutdown, dissociation, fatigue, when you start to experience the overthinking, when you start to feel the sensations in the body that might show up as tension, that might show up as pain, that might even show up as illness. This is the response, and this is the portal. Every time those things show up in the present, this is our portal to that past trauma. This is our portal to our healing, always. The problem is when these things show up, when our response shows up and we feel it in our body as sensations, or we feel it in our mind as overwhelming thoughts, or when we feel the emotions swallowing us whole, we get more afraid. We feel like we're back there. We feel like we're reliving it. And when we lose our own sense of power in the situation, when we feel that draining of our own personal grounding and power in the moment, we do slip back there. But we're not back there. We're here. And the pattern plays out here. And we allow the pattern to take over our truest, most real self, right? The self that is safe, that knows they're safe, that is here, that's grounded in this moment. When we let the pattern or the parts overtake who we are, then we're back into a survival response and a pattern, and we call this trauma. But let's take an analogy here so that you can understand this a little bit better. Everybody probably has learned how to ride a bike. So think of it like this. You learned how to ride your bike as a kid, maybe 5 years old. When you first learned to ride that bike, you fell, you wobbled, you were terrified. You didn't know how to ride the bike, but you practiced and you learned, and suddenly your brain figured out how to ride this bike. So you didn't wobble anymore and you didn't fall anymore, and your training wheels could come off and you could zoom down the street, and you could now ride your bike. Now maybe you ride that bike for several years as a child, and then you decide you're not riding a bike anymore. You stop, you get busy in your life, you have a car. Now 20 years later, somebody gives you a bike and you get on it and you immediately start to ride. You don't think about it. Your body remembers. It remembers how to ride the bike. It has stored that memory, that pattern, that knowledge, how to do it in your body. So you don't have to think, you just get on and start to ride. You don't fall, you don't wobble, you don't have to relearn how to ride this bike. Even 20 years later, it's automatic. Now, unfortunately, trauma, chronic illness, anxiety attacks, all of these things work the same way. Your brain and body remember how you coped with danger. They remember how you coped with the sensations and the emotions and the thoughts and the feelings that put you in danger back then. Your body remembers how it kept you safe when you were too overwhelmed, too small to do it yourself. Your nervous system took control, and it remembers how it responded in the face of those emotions and sensations and thoughts, and what coping skills and mechanisms developed in order to keep you safe. And they were intelligent survival patterns, because if you are still here now, they did their job. They kept you alive, which is all the back of the brain, the amygdala, the limbic system. That's its only job, is to keep you safe and alive, not comfortable or happy or peaceful or being able to process anything, but safe and alive. So if you're still here, it did its job. The problem is that these, even 10, 20 years later, these survival patterns stay with you. And they stay with you not because you're broken, but because your brain is brilliant. It is hypervigilant. It is overprotective. Your thoughts race at warp speed in order to process and keep you safe, right? Your brain is brilliant. It figured out how to keep you alive back then in the face of danger. The problem is 10, 20 years later, when you're handed that bike, or when danger presents itself, we want to not remember how to ride the bike. Problem is, you're always going to remember how to ride the bike, because again, once it's stored, it's there. You can't teach yourself how to forget to ride a bike. You really cannot teach yourself, okay, I'm not going to be able to, think about it. I'm not going to be able to think about riding this bike. I'm not going to remember. I don't want to remember. I'm going to fall when I get on there. You can tell yourself, I want to fall and wobble and not know how to ride this bike. But you're going to get on it and you're going to ride it. You're not going to fall and wobble and, have to relearn how to ride the bike. You are going to remember, no matter how many times you try to tell yourself or convince yourself that you simply don't want to know anymore. Your brain doesn't care that you don't want to know how to ride the bike. It knows, and when you get on it, it's going to ride. It's not going to let you fall and wobble and hurt yourself. It's going to help you ride that bike because that's how it knows to keep you safe and alive when you're on the bike. It doesn't want you to fall either. So if we wanted to unlearn how to ride that bike, we can't really, that's why everything fails when we try to throw things at it, because we can't really unlearn that. The only way to unlearn it is to teach your brain a new way to ride the bike. Maybe there's a new method to riding the bike, something completely new. And if you teach your brain how to do that enough times, it'll forget the old way to ride the bike, and it will be happy to ride a bike the new way. And then even if you don't ride a bike 2, 3, 5, 10 years later, when a bike shows up, you will remember the new way to ride the bike. And so that's what we need to do with our survival system. We need to teach our survival system a new way to get to safety, a new way to feel safe in the body, a new way to keep you alive and safe. But this time, instead of doing it in a way that doesn't work for you in your life, you're going to teach it to survive and to keep you safe and alive in a way that helps you thrive, grow, expand, and become more of yourself, not shrink and contract and become less. So we're looking to form a new pattern or to teach a new pattern of, dealing with that sense of trauma, which is a survival pattern that is present in the now as a way to keep you safe. And we want to get rid of the old way. We want to let the old way go. But remember, we can't just let the old way go. We can't be like, I want to unlearn how to ride this bike. We have to show it something new, because the brain just can't unlearn something. It has to learn something new and better to replace it. So take old televisions, for example. If you're old enough to remember getting up and changing the channel and doing the little bunny ears and getting up off the couch and pressing all these buttons and learning how to program it a certain way and make sure that it comes into focus. Okay, we don't need to learn that way anymore, because now we have an amazing television that we can program with our Google Home or with AI, and we can just say, whatever we're saying, like Alexa on, and change the channel. So if we can get a new way, then we simply just discard the old way. We might not even need to remember that anymore. There's probably plenty of things that you needed to remember, like how to read maps when you're on the highway. And you kind of forget, because now you can just program your GPS. So the brain loves new and novel ways. And when it finds a new and novel way to keep you safe and alive, which is all that the back of the brain wants, okay? But it also keeps you happy, healthy, thriving, all of these other new and wonderful things, like the way you program your GPS in the car, then it can just simply let go of that old pattern or way. But rather than trying to unteach ourselves how to learn to read a map, we just teach ourselves how to do this new, more amazing thing. And the brain grabs it. The brain loves to grab new and novel ways that keep you safe and keep you alive, which is its main job, but also give you all the other things that you want and need. So that's what we need to teach the brain. We need to teach the brain, I am safe now. I am safe here. Right? This isn't dangerous. I am safe. And this is how we can now act and behave in the face of these sensations, in the face of these emotions, in the face of all these thoughts, in the face of perceived danger. I don't need this old way anymore because I have a new way. But if you don't have a new way, the brain is going to hold on to the old way. Okay? Because its job is to keep you safe and alive. And it's going to do that in whatever way it can. So if it only has the old way, it's going to go to the old way. You have to give it a new way. You have to teach it a new way. You have to continue to use that new way, because it's like riding a new kind of bike. It might even be harder than the original bike you learned how to ride. If you do it enough times, your brain's going to prefer to go to this new thing. It will say automatically, you won't even have to do it. It will say, oh, we can discard this old way. We have a new, better way now. We have a better way. We know what it is. We know how to do it. It gets us the results we want. And not only does it keep us safe and alive, but it helps us meet our goals and have amazing relationships and be the person that we want to be. This is way better. But until it feels safe using this new way, until it's sure that the new way is going to work, like it doesn't care about all the side benefits. It needs to make sure that it works. It keeps you alive and safe just as effectively as this old way. Okay? It needs to know that in the very core of you. It needs to know this way is as effective as this way. So that's the basic thing that we need to teach it. So as I said, healing trauma always happens in the now. We don't have to go back there. And it's not the big dramatic breakthrough that a lot of people think overcoming trauma is. It's usually the small, quiet moments when you're starting to spiral, when you're starting to feel uncomfortable, when your mind is starting to go there, when your sensations are bubbling up, when your emotions are just starting to rise. And instead of thinking, doing, responding in the old ways, with the old way that kept us safe, we pause. This is where we breathe instead of react. This is where we become aware that we need to do something different. We need to think different thoughts, take different actions, respond in a new way. We're not just going to jump on that old bike anymore. We need to think more carefully about how to ride this new bike, especially when we don't yet know how to do it. And the brain thinks it's easier to just go back to the bike it knows how to ride, because you need to get somewhere. You need to get to safety. So there's a bad guy coming and there's two bikes there, and you know how to ride this one and you don't really know how to ride this one yet. It's going to keep you safe. It's going to be like, get on this bike and start riding. It's in those moments where we're like, wait a minute, there is no actual bad guy coming. You just think there's a bad guy coming. So we have time to pause. We don't need to immediately get on that bike. We have time to breathe, and we have time to practice and try to ride this bike slowly by little. We have time to try to implement this, right? We have, a little bit longer than you think we do to try this. It doesn't work, and we really, you assess that there's a dangerous situation, then sure, get on this bike and let's go. But we need to try every time to ride this bike. We need to teach our brain a new way to ride a bike, so it doesn't rely on the old pattern. It doesn't rely on the old thing that is keeping you safe presently, which is actually your present pattern of survival. Whatever way that your body is getting you out of danger and to safety, it's the old way, but it's the only way it has. It's the present way that it's currently using. We have to get rid of that system, and we can't get rid of it unless we teach it a new system. So if we breathe instead of react, and if we soften to our trigger, or we soften to those sensations, or we soften to that thought, or we soften to those emotions, instead of tightening around it, instead of clenching, instead of holding, instead of contracting, if we soften and expand, if we soften and breathe, if we soften and pause and take a moment and choose something different, choose to bring our body and brain in a different direction, choose to stay with ourselves instead of fighting ourselves or running from ourselves or denying our emotions or rejecting them. We choose to feel them, to stay with them, to be present, then that is how we're teaching our nervous system a new pattern. It is how we're teaching our survival system a new way to do it. Because over time, those moments are going to add up and your brain is going to start to figure out this is how we do it now. We pause, we soften, we take a moment, we do a new action, right? We think different thoughts. And so there are many powerful ways to do this. And I go over these in many of my videos because they're extremely important. The first one is somatic work. This is where, and somatic simply means happening in the body, in the experience of the actual physical body. Learning to feel the sensations in your body without judgment, without running, without fighting, without analyzing. Learning to feel the emotions that are rising in your body without running, without fighting, without judging, without criticizing. We don't analyze it, we feel it. We allow it to be felt, and we stay with presence. We let the body lead. What does the body want to do that we're stopping it from doing? Move, shake, cry, breathe. What natural ways are we not permitting our body to experience the fullness of what's coming up? How can we let the body release what's coming up without interference from the mind? So that is why somatic or body exercises are so important, because they help the body release what the mind simply can't. The next practice is orienting to the present. This is really critical because often when our survival response kicks in, when the trauma is here and flooding us, we simply allow ourselves to get caught up in thoughts of the past and memories of the past. And we allow ourselves to experience it like it was the past. So grounding here in the present, orienting to what's actually here right now in your environment is critical. Right? Touching your body, feeling the floor under you, being able to name different things in the room, being able to focus your gaze on them. The other thing I like for this is nervous system regulation tools. We would do some vagus nerve activation, like humming or singing or chanting. You can do long exhales and you're breathing. Cold, hot. All of these things work really well to help the vagus nerve. There's a lot of polyvagal informed exercises that can help with nervous system regulation. There's a lot of safe embodiment practices like hugging yourself, rocking, squeezing your arms. These types of things can really help to convey messages of safety to the body. And of course, we can use our mind. We can use brain retraining techniques where we are saying, I'm not in danger anymore, where we're literally having the brain now tell the body. First, we were having the body tell the brain I'm safe, and now we can have the brain tell the body, you're not in danger. You're safe. You're safe in this moment. It's okay to be here and to feel all of these things that are here. You are actually safe. And then you can use your brain to say, let's think of something good. Let's think of something we love. Let's think of something that makes us feel even safer. So we can use our brain to help our body come back into safety, these brain retraining tools. And then, of course, exercises that work with resistance. So allowing, accepting, instead of resisting, fighting, and running from anything that we feel, any feeling, whether it's a sensation or an emotion, anything that we feel, we practice acceptance, allowing, and just presence. We stay with it. And every time we stay with it, we are really conveying deep safety. Like, because if you're staying with something and you're present to something instead of running or fighting or trying to escape the way your old survival pattern did it, you're really teaching fast your body that we're okay to stay. We're okay to be present. We're grounded here in this moment and we can feel this. It's safe to feel this now. This is basically re-parenting your nervous system. It's a very deep form of rewiring it. And all these things might seem small, but they're not. They add up to a whole new way of being. in the face of danger. They add up to a whole new way of riding a bike. So we can let this old one go. So trauma is so interesting. It is one of the most complex things that we have to try to solve in the whole chronic pain, chronic illness, chronic conditions. It's really key because it's not just stored in conscious memories and conscious patterns, it's stored deeply in unconscious patterning, things that you don't even know are happening behind the scenes. The way your heartbeat just beats and the way that your breathing just breathes, right? It's that unconscious for a lot of people. And the way that you just know how to ride that bike. It's very hard to think your way out of this, but you need to consciously feel the old way of doing the survival or being in that survival trauma, that pattern, in order to heal it. So you really can only do this work in the present, when it's coming up, when you're noticing it, when it's here. Because that's how you repattern or retrain something. So if the symptoms aren't coming, you can't undo this. You can't relearn it. So you almost need your symptoms. You almost need all of the horrible things that you're feeling, whether they're sensations or emotions or thoughts, to come up. Because without them, we can't teach it a new way. So we need them in order to change the response to them. We need the old in order to create the new. So when the old comes up, no matter how challenging it is, if you just continue to keep allowing the old unconscious patterning to run the show, you're not going to ever be able to change this. So every time it comes up, you have to be thankful it's here, no matter how difficult that is, and use it as an opportunity to practice. Use it as an opportunity to be here in the moment and teach your nervous system how to do this a different way. And remember, the nervous system wants to know, I'll do it a new way as long as you can guarantee me that I'm going to be safe, I'm going to stay alive, and then all those other benefits that come from it are just the cherry on top. You have to convince your nervous system what you're doing is going to keep it safe and alive. So you have to show it in the moment so that it doesn't just override you and just go back to the old way. Saying, move aside, new way. We know how to do this. You're like, no, that's not what we're doing anymore. We're learning a new way. And it's not easy to learn a new way. It doesn't feel easy to learn how to ride that new bike yet. It's easier to go back to the old way, believe it or not, for the nervous system. But people heal PTSD, CPTSD, and what I would consider complex trauma, ongoing trauma. You can heal these things without ever revisiting the events, without ever having to think back and rehash what happened, no matter how traumatic it was, no matter how long it was. Like, that's why people have success, because some people can't even remember the event. It was years and years of a trauma. So how could they possibly, heal all those different memories and all those different things? It doesn't matter. You don't have to. You just have to heal the response to it. You just have to unlearn the response. And that happens now. So we re-regulate our nervous system. We retrain our brain in the now every time we feel an emotion, a sensation, or a thought. Every time we feel our survival response kick in. Every time we notice that something is reminding us of trauma. So trauma isn't about changing what happened. You can never change what happened, but you can change the way your body responds to it now, going forward. And here's the most beautiful truth of all. When you start healing trauma now, right here, no matter how hard it is, you will slowly shift out of survival mode. And when you shift out of survival mode, then we're not only working with the limbic system, we're now also working with the prefrontal cortex. And once that prefrontal cortex gets online and it's communicating, it is a problem solver. It loves to solve problems and to make realizations and to have, deep understanding of things. Once this part comes online and it can talk to the body and all of the parts of your body, then your life truly starts to open. Then you can truly start to find these amazing new ways to be in the world. Because now you can figure out what you can do on this new bike and all the ways that this new bike can be beneficial to you and make your life even better, right? You can be creative with it and you can now be successful, and now you can manifest. You can manifest your highest life from this new bike that you've now learned to ride, because now all of you is back online, right? Your survival mode, your survival brain isn't running the show. Now our prefrontal cortex, it's come on to say, I'm here to help. And it is amazing when it can get in there and start to help. So, but until your prefrontal cortex gets back online, until you really step out of that survival response and back into the here and now, you have to teach it. You have to get in there and manually put yourself on the new bike and force yourself to ride it, even though you're going to wobble and fall a bunch of times. You have to convince your survival brain that, hey, you can turn off now. You can slow down. You don't have to be so vigilant, because this will work. This will keep us safe. It will keep us alive. And you'll see it will be even better. And when you can show that part of your brain, we are safe now. We absolutely are safe. It will turn off. I promise you it will turn off. And then you can really get to the business of healing, deeply healing, and doing all the real work that it takes to keep your life healed and not have you going into survival mode every time something else comes up. So right now, all you have to do is meet this moment of trauma, meet this moment of survival, of your survival pattern, and be present with it and love it back into safety. Presence it back into safety. Show it that it can be here right now, in this moment, and the next moment, and the next moment. And this is healing. This is wholeness. And this is how the past finally lets go. This is how that survival pattern finally dissolves. And this is how you can finally stop trying to go back and make a different decision or have it be a different way. And you can just simply show up now and do a different thing now. Change now. Be a different way now. So I truly hope that you have received a lot of value from this video. If you did, please hit the like button and let me know in the comments below. And if you want a free program with resources showing you how to help your nervous system come out of this, I did say that if I got to 100 likes and 100 comments on one of these videos about trauma, that I would make it. So this is going to be my last video on trauma for a while, but we're going to get into some other things. But if you want it, if any one of these last 3 videos gets 100 likes or 100 comments, I will make that free training. So be sure to like, comment, and let me know. So remember, we don't go back. We're not going forward. We're going inward. When we go inward, when we stay present, when we get safe right here, right now. So I am sending you all my love. Go ahead and watch this video next if you want to learn a little bit more. And I will see you in the next video.